Children are playing here.
This is what a temporary refuge for Afghan evacuees in Texas looks like. Jawed Omid, a former journalist, is among the thousands of evacuees housed here as a special immigrant visa, which allows him to stay and work in the US legally, is being processed.
In this camp we are living, there is a tent, under the tent, almost around 10 or more than 10 families are living in one of this tent.
The US evacuated more than 65,000 Afghans from Afghanistan in the past month. Most of them are put up in temporary shelters like this.
See it as tents. People are living inside this two sides. It was separated by this block. This is a very narrow way to my tent. This side is my room. There's some cats that my children were sleeping on it. She's my daughter. Say hi. Bugu salam. She is playing with her iPad. She's watching cartoon. And here's another one.
The bare minimum conditions are bearable for most. It has proven to be a challenge for Mr. Jawed's two young daughters, aged 5 years and 18 months respectively. They have to adapt to life being confined in a camp.
Because too much people. Inside the tent there is everything. Some musculars are coming inside. My children, they are scaring. Especially at night, they are not going to sleep. Say, please take us back to the home.
Before reaching Texas, Mr. Jawed and his family were taken to Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates, traveling on a cramped military airplane with no seats.
When we traveled from Kabul to Abu Dhabi, we traveled through a military plane. That there were no seats and no seat belts. About 800 people were seated inside that plane. I took my two daughters on my hike. Also, I took my wife very close to me. There was too much people inside the plane. It is a very, how can I say, it is very bad but experience for me that you never see that in your life. When the plane was taking off from the Kabul airport, most of the people were going to one side of the plane because there were no seat belts.
Another Afghan evacuee, Mr. Ali Adili, recounts the horrific scenes at the gates of Kabul's Hamid Karzai International Airport. The researcher was briefly held at gunpoint by hostile Taliban guards as he was trying to get to the airport with his wife and 5-year-old child.
We made a first attempt to get into the airport on 19 August. We had almost made our way up to the gate and we were just staying close to a wall so that we were not overwhelmed by the crowd. And all of a sudden, the Taliban fighters started pushing back the crowd and beating them. One of them beat one of my relatives. I somehow protested that relative was old and sick. And then that Taliban fighter pointed the gun at me. My 5-year-old kid saw that scene and he was very scared. And when we finally returned home, he went to another room and burst into tears. And that was like very painful experience.
His family managed to catch a flight out of Afghanistan 2 weeks ago after they traveled into the airport by bus. They're housed in a military airbase in the US state of Virginia at the moment. Journalists and academics are often the target of the Taliban, which began its reign in Afghanistan last month. Mr. Ali is relieved to have made it out with his wife and son, but he's also gripped by guilt and sorrow thinking about those he he left behind.
In the last couple of weeks since the fall of Kabul, and then our plan to get out of the country and leave behind all those family members, I think it was the first time that I cried so much in my life. That is what the only thing that I could do whenever I was alone, and due to the heartbreak and due to the feeling that I am out somehow in some sort of safety, but all those family members are left behind with no prospect for a sort of stability and peace.